Introduction. Let's talk about the Quran. There are many ways to approach it, but they all highlight how important it is as a source of guidance and knowledge. The Quran is not just a religious book, it's like a big guidebook for life, covering everything from how to be a good person to how to understand the world around us. You could even call it a theory of everything from an Islamic perspective. Here are some key things to remember. Divine revelation. Muslims believe the Quran is the literal word of God, revealed to the Prophet Muhammad through the angel Gabriel. It's at the heart of the Islamic faith and guides all parts of life, emphasizing fairness, honesty, and beauty. Preservation. The Quran has been preserved perfectly over time, which is seen as a miracle. This means it's still relevant and important today, just like it was centuries ago. This is a key element that sets the Quran apart. Comprehensive guidance. The Quran isn't just about laws and morals. It's a complete system that brings all knowledge together. It answers big questions about why we're here, what our purpose is, and how God and creation are connected. Addressing skepticism. In today's world, people rely on science and evidence. Some might question the authenticity of religious texts. The Quran's unique preservation is often presented as a response to these doubts. Invitation to exploration. Think of this as an invitation to explore the Quran with an open mind. Don't just read it, think deeply about its teachings. The goal is to inspire wonder and respect for the text, recognizing it as more than just words, but timeless truths protected by a divine power. Methodology for understanding. There are different ways to study the Quran. Some people analyze the text, the language, or use logic and reasoning to understand its meaning. Using these methods, combined with looking at the content, allows for a thorough study of the Quran's structure and themes. The Quran also encourages critical thinking and reflection through methods that use listening, observing, and deep thinking. Structure and numerical patterns. The Quran has 114 chapters and over 6,000 verses. People often study its numerical patterns, believing each number has a symbolic meaning. Analyzing these numbers is a recognized method for exploring the Quran's structure, along with thematic analysis of individual chapters. The significance of numbers like 6, 7, 19, 23, 114, 289, and 1729 is explored for their connection to the Quran's message. Emphasis on key terms. Words like axiom, theorem, interpretation, mushaf, rezm, and mutawatir are important to know for further discussion. For example, the Uthmanic script is the standardized version of the Quran that was compiled to ensure uniformity and prevent disagreements. Muqattat. Some chapters start with separate letters or muqattat, which are also important and have been studied using something called digital root. Muqattat are seen as symbols of faith, introductions to chapters, or keys to unlocking deeper meaning. The Quran as a guide for ethical conduct. The Quran doesn't just talk about spiritual things, it emphasizes ethical principles to guide daily life and relationships. The purpose of analyzing the Quran through different methods, including numerical, is to develop and promote ethical behavior in the lives of Muslims. Relevance to contemporary issues. The Quran's teachings are presented as relevant for solving modern-day problems by offering a source of moral and ethical values and by encouraging critical thinking. In conclusion, the Quran is a complete system of knowledge, a source of guidance and wisdom, and a text worthy of deep study. It's unique because it's been preserved so perfectly and it's still relevant in today's world. This introduction invites readers to explore its depths with respect and critical thought. Chapter 1. Chapter 1, often called Surah Al-Fatiha, the opening, is unique in the Quran and is considered its essence. It's the first chapter of the Quran and is also known as the 7 oft-repeated verses. Here's why it's so important. The opening. Surah Al-Fatiha is called the opening because it's like an introduction to the whole Quran. It summarizes the main principles of faith, guidance, and submission to God, setting the tone for the rest of the book. It's often described as a summary of the entire message of the Quran. Central theme. This chapter emphasizes the oneness of God, Tawheed, God's mercy, and the need for guidance. It establishes the relationship between humans and God, showing how much we depend on Him. The opening verse, "In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful," connects believers to God's mercy and highlights the concept of God's nature as compassionate and singular. Structure and significance. It has 7 verses, which are referred to in Islamic tradition as the 7 oft-repeated. It's the foundation of Islamic prayer, salah, and is recited multiple times a day. The first verse, known as the Basmalah, has 19 letters and the chapter has 29 words. The letter R is repeated 8 times in Surat Al-Fatiha. Numerical patterns. The chapter has 143 letters according to one approach, or 139 letters using a different approach. The total number of letters used in the surah is 2119. The verses are arranged in a balanced way, with 3 verses preceding the middle verse and 3 after it. The first, second, and third words of each verse total 31 letters when counted. The 18th word from the beginning of the Qur'an is Ihdina, meaning guide us, which is found in Surah Al-Fatiha. The sum of the ordinal numbers for the letters in this word is 61, and 61 is the 18th prime number. Symbolism and oneness. The chapter starts with the Arabic letters Alif Lam, El, which can be seen as representing the unity or oneness of God. Alif, the first letter of the Arabic alphabet, symbolizes the unique and singular nature of God. It is often associated with the beginning of creation and the spiritual journey of believers. The number 1 is often associated with the concept of oneness, Tawheed. The number 1 can be linked to Surah 1, which is Surah Al-Fatiha. It can be symbolized by the number 1 representing singularity and uniqueness. The opening verse of the Quran begins with the letter B, and there are 63 verses in the Quran that begin with the letter B, which is the age of Prophet Muhammad, PBUH. Relationship with the rest of the Quran. The entire Quran revolves around the linguistic meaning of the 7 verses of Surah Al-Fatiha. It's the only chapter without which prayer is not valid. It provides the background for teachings that come later in subsequent chapters, including Surah Al-Baqarah. The letters that form the name of chapter 7, Al-Araf, appear in Surah Al-Fatiha 114 times, which is the total number of chapters in the Quran. The letters of the word Ibrahim, the name of chapter 14, are repeated 98 times in chapter 1, and 98 = 7x14. The letters of the name of chapter 16, Al-Nahl, appear in chapter 1 64 times, and 64 = 16x4. The word Quran appears twice, and the letters of each spelling appear in chapter 1 a total of 46 and 68 times respectively, and 46 plus 68 = 114. The letters comprising the word for divine revelation, Wahi, appear in chapter 1 a total of 23 times, which is the number of years over which the Quran was revealed. Unique position. In architectural design, it's depicted as the only open surah, symbolizing a prayer always open to connect with God. It acts as a gateway to the Quran. In short, chapter 1, Surah Al-Fatiha, is not just the opening chapter of the Quran, but it's considered its very essence. It acts as a foundational text that summarizes the core teachings of Islam, emphasizing the oneness of God, divine mercy, and guidance. Its structure, numerical patterns, and relationship with the rest of the Quran highlight its significance as a central element of the Islamic faith. Continuing from our discussion of the first chapter of the Quran, let's delve further into the themes and concepts that emerge in subsequent chapters, as well as other Quran-related topics mentioned in the source. Thematic analysis. The sources provide examples of thematic analysis, noting that Surah Al-Alaq 96 focuses on the creation of man and the first revelation to Muhammad. Surah Al-Kalam 68 addresses themes of judgment, the pen and divine records, and Surah Al-Muzammil 73 emphasizes night prayer, patience, and the revelation of the Quran. Critical thinking in the Quran. The Quran encourages critical thinking through reflection and observation. The Quran uses words like ayah, ibra, mudakir, zikra, mithal, nakal, nudur, uswa, mawida, tabsira, and nasiha to invite reflection. The Quran also invites people to travel the earth and observe the fate of previous generations. Historical context. The sources also discuss historical events and their relation to the Quran. For example, the beginning verses of Surah Al-Rum mention 3 futuristic prophecies, including the victory of the Eastern Roman Empire over the Persian Empire. The battles between the Byzantine and Persian empires took place around 614 AD, with fighting occurring in areas including Jordan, Syria, Palestine, Israel, and Turkey. Numerical patterns in the Quran. The sources highlight the importance of numbers and numerical patterns in the Quran. The number 18 appears in the verse, "Guide us to the straight path." This verse is the 18th word from the beginning of the Quran. The first verse of Surat Al-Alaq has 18 letters. The number 7 is repeated, for example, in the story of Prophet Yusuf, and the 7 years of prosperity, followed by 7 years of famine. The number 6 can be a symbol of balance or completion. Digital root is used as a way of understanding numbers in the Quran and the natural world. The Quran encourages reflection on nature and natural cycles. For example, it mentions the seasons of spring, summer, autumn, and winter, and relates them to the cycles of growth and dormancy of trees and plants. The Quran also uses nature as a source of learning and encourages reflection on creation. The Quran as a comprehensive guide. The Quran is described as a guide for all aspects of life and is seen as a complete system of knowledge. The Quran is also seen as a way to understand the universe and encompasses principles that can be applied in daily life. The Quran provides a framework for understanding the universe and humanity's place in it. The Quran is also described as the only book where numbers are as meaningful as words. Ethical and moral guidance. The Quran emphasizes ethical principles that should guide daily life and relationships. The Quran also guides people to live better lives through inspiration and moral teachings. The Quran also emphasizes justice, truth, and beauty. The unique style of the Quran. The Quran has a unique style and its verses and chapters are interconnected. It is noted that the Quran is easy to memorize and understand despite its complexity. The Quran challenges people with its style and content. Preservation of the Quran. The Quran's unique preservation is seen as a miracle. The Quran is presented as a divine text that has been preserved over time, ensuring its relevance and authority across generations. These points demonstrate the diverse topics addressed by the Quran and the various methods and approaches used to understand it. Continuing our previous discussion, let's delve further into the themes, concepts, and unique features of the Quran as highlighted in the sources. Prophetic narratives and guidance. The sources discuss several prophets, including Prophet Yusuf, Joseph, whose story in Surah Yusuf illustrates the importance of preparation for economic cycles, and Prophet Musa, Moses, whose interactions with God are depicted in the context of him receiving divine guidance. The Quran emphasizes that prophets have been given knowledge by God and that they do not know the unseen except what God reveals to them. The concept of fadlun, the term fadlun meaning abundance or excess, is described as something extraordinary, beyond human comprehension. The Quran encourages believers to seek fadlun in the world, not just in ordinary activities but also in endeavors that are significant and impactful. The significance of the number 7. The sources highlight the recurring significance of the number 7, which is seen in various contexts. The digital root of 7 appears in the analysis of 250-year economic cycles, linking it to the rise and fall patterns of civilizations and empires. This pattern is also related to the story of Prophet Yusuf's interpretation of the Pharaoh's dream. The Quran describes the creation of 7 heavens. Surah Al-Fatiha, the first chapter of the Quran, consists of 7 verses. The Quran's emphasis on reflection and observation. The Quran repeatedly encourages the observation of nature and reflection on the signs of God. It urges people to travel and witness the remnants of past civilizations and learn from their experiences. The Quran utilizes natural phenomena such as seasonal changes as a means to understand life cycles. The Quran's unique numerical structure. The sources emphasize that the Quran has a unique numerical structure. This numerical structure encompasses the placement of chapters, verses, words, and letters, which are considered divinely ordained. Numbers in the Quran are not mere quantities but possess meaning and significance, interacting with and adding to the meaning of the text itself. The Quran uses numbers to convey messages, and this numerical structure is described as an intricate system that surpasses human comprehension. The concept of the middle way. The term wusta, middle, is used to highlight the importance of following a balanced path. Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, is presented as a living example of following the middle way, demonstrating balance in all aspects of life. The Quran and the unseen, Gaib. The Quran clarifies that knowledge of the unseen, Gaib, is exclusively with God. Prophets and messengers do not possess this knowledge unless God grants it to them. This concept emphasizes God's absolute knowledge and power. The Quran also explains that the exact timing of the Day of Judgment is also known only to God. The inimitability and challenge of the Quran. The Quran is presented as a book that challenges human capabilities. It is described as a book whose wonders never cease. and it is presented as a creation beyond human imitation. The Quran and the digital age. The source highlights the relevance of the Quran to the digital age, suggesting that the language of numbers is now more powerful than words. The interconnectedness of the Quran. The Quran's verses are interconnected, creating a tapestry of meaning. Different parts of the Quran reflect and complement each other. The Quran's guidance on various aspects of life. The Quran's teachings extend to various aspects of human existence, including social justice, family law, and ethical conduct. It promotes righteousness and warns against injustice. The Quran as a guide. The Quran guides people to live better lives through spiritual inspiration and moral teachings. It provides a methodology for acquiring knowledge and encourages people to engage in critical thinking. These points reveal a deeper understanding of the Quran's intricate nature, its engagement with the natural world, its numerical patterns, and its profound impact on human life and thought. For millions around the world, the Quran is like a guiding light, illuminating their hearts and souls. It lights the path of life for those seeking guidance and meaning, offering hope and peace in every verse. Muslims believe the Quran to be the Word of God, revealed to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, over 1400 years ago. It's a source of deep wisdom, noble teachings, and priceless spiritual tranquility. This holy book offers a complete framework for living a meaningful and moral life, covering every aspect of human existence. The Quran isn't just a religious text, it's a guide for all parts of human life, from the smallest details to the biggest decisions. It talks about faith, morals, laws, and social interactions, giving clear and direct guidance. The Quran's teachings go beyond time and place, offering timeless principles to navigate the complexities of life, relevant in every age. Its verses inspire, comfort, challenge, and ultimately guide individuals towards a deeper understanding of themselves and their place in the universe, connecting them with their Creator. The Quran is believed to be the peak of divine revelation, carrying important messages from God to all of humanity. It is a message full of wisdom and guidance, revealed to guide people to the right path. The Quran is considered the last holy book in a series of previous revelations, completing and perfecting the books that came before it, including the Torah revealed to Prophet Moses, which contains God's laws and commandments, and the Gospel revealed to Prophet Jesus, which carries a message of love and forgiveness. Muslims believe that God conveyed his revelation to Prophet Muhammad through the angel Gabriel, who brought holy verses from heaven. These revelations, which took place over 23 years, were carefully recorded by the Prophet's companions, who ensured that every word and verse was preserved accurately and truthfully. The concept of divine revelation is essential to understanding the Quran, as it emphasizes the sacredness of the text and its authority as a source of guidance. The Quran is not only considered a holy book, but also a complete and comprehensive guide for life. The message of the Quran is believed to be universal, addressed not only to Muslims, but to all of humanity, regardless of background or beliefs. Its teachings emphasize the importance of surrendering to the will of the Creator, living a righteous life, and striving for spiritual enlightenment. It invites people to reflect, pray, and seek peace in their relationship with God and with each other. By following the teachings of the Quran, humanity can achieve happiness and well-being in this world and the hereafter. One of the most amazing things about the Quran is how it has been preserved. Muslims believe that the Quran has been preserved in its original Arabic language since the time it was revealed. Unlike other holy books that have been edited and translated, the Quran has stayed the same. This preservation is seen as proof of its divine origin and protection from human changes. The Quran's preservation is attributed to divine protection and the hard work of early Muslims. Prophet Muhammad stressed the importance of memorizing and transmitting the Quran accurately. Scribes carefully wrote down the revelations, and generations of Muslims have dedicated their lives to memorizing and preserving the text. This unbroken chain of transmission ensures the authenticity and integrity of the Quran. The Quran provides guidance for all parts of a person's life. It offers a complete ethical framework, addressing personal behavior, social responsibility, and spiritual growth. The Quran emphasizes the importance of justice, love, honesty, and humility. It forbids bad qualities like greed, envy, and pride. The Quran's teachings go beyond personal morals to include social justice and community development. It stresses the importance of treating everyone with respect and kindness, no matter their religion, ethnicity, or social status. The Quran encourages generosity, helping those in need, and creating a just and equitable society. It promotes peace, understanding, and cooperation among all people. Part 5. Addressing modern doubts. The truth of the Quran. In this age of skepticism and critical inquiry, it's natural for people to question the authenticity of religious texts. The Quran, just like other holy books, has been studied and analyzed. However, Muslims believe that the Quran's unique qualities and historical context offer convincing proof of its divine origin. One of the main arguments for the Quran's authenticity is its beautiful language and eloquence. The Arabic of the Quran is considered a literary masterpiece, surpassing the abilities of even the most skilled Arab poets and speakers of that time. Critics and skeptics back then were challenged to produce even a single chapter comparable to the Quran, but they couldn't do it. Part 6. An invitation to explore, unveiling the treasures of the Quran. The Quran is not just a book to be read, but a text to be pondered and cherished. It invites individuals to approach its verses with an open heart and an inquisitive mind. The wisdom of the Quran is revealed gradually, unfolding its layers of meaning to those who study it sincerely. Understanding the Quran is a lifelong journey of discovery. It requires effort, humility, and a willingness to be transformed by its message. The Quran challenges individuals to examine their beliefs, confront their prejudices, and strive for self-improvement. It is a source of inspiration, guidance, and comfort for those seeking to live a meaningful and purposeful life. Part 7. Understanding the Quran, Methods and Approaches. For centuries, scholars and students of the Quran have developed various methods to understand its message. These methods range from traditional approaches rooted in Islamic knowledge to contemporary interpretations using modern literary and linguistic analysis. One common method is Tafsir, which refers to the science of Quranic interpretation. Tafsir scholars study the historical context, linguistic nuances, and rulings related to specific verses. They refer to the Prophet's sayings, the practices of his companions, and the works of earlier scholars to provide a comprehensive interpretation. Part 8. The Divine Tapestry. Structure, symbolism, and numerical patterns. The Quran isn't arranged like a history book, telling stories in the order they happened. Instead, it's structured in a way that highlights the connections between its ideas and its beautiful language. Each chapter and verse is carefully placed to share a deep and meaningful message. The Quran is divided into 114 chapters, each with its own name and special topic. Each chapter has a unique and important message that adds to the overall story of the Quran. These chapters are different lengths. The shortest one only has 3 verses. Longer chapters have hundreds of verses and share a wide range of perspectives and teachings. Beyond its outward structure, the Quran is full of symbolism and number patterns that have fascinated scholars for centuries. These patterns not only make the language more beautiful, but also carry deeper meanings. For example, certain words and phrases are repeated a specific number of times, often matching important events or ideas. This repetition emphasizes how important the message is. These number patterns are seen as proof that the Quran came from God, and as a way to unlock even deeper layers of meaning. Scholars continue to study these patterns to understand more about the divine message within the Quran. Part 9. Timeless Wisdom for Modern Times. The Quran's Relevance Today. Although revealed over 14 centuries ago, the Quran's message remains deeply relevant to the challenges facing humanity today. Its teachings on social justice, ethical conduct, and spiritual growth provide timeless wisdom for navigating the complexities of modern life. The Quran's emphasis on reason and critical thinking encourages individuals to engage with knowledge and seek truth through observation and reflection. Its teachings on environmental stewardship resonate deeply in an age of climate change and ecological degradation. The Quran's message of hope, compassion, and social responsibility offers a path forward for a world grappling with conflict, inequality, and spiritual alienation.